Alright, listen up. The tall, older-looking woman called out to the crowd of freshly graduated cadets. If you're here, that means you're being sent to the Imperium's Merchant Patrol Specialist Training. If anyone's in the wrong place, go where you're supposed to be before the MPs track you down for being AWOL. Her voice was deep and smooth as butter, and Milk instantly fell in love. The flight suit she wore sat comfortably on her well-worn curves, and the fetching purple scarf caught the wind in a way that wouldn't look out of place in the most stylized of propaganda posters. The fact she was leaning against one of the sleekest fighter craft the poor lesbian had ever seen wasn't helping matters in the slightest. Since nobody's leaving, I'll assume you've all signed up for patrol finishing school. First rule, don't call it the Imperium's Merchant Patrol, the pilot said with a mocking tone. We're the patrol. Nothing more, nothing less. Any of you kids have dreams of pulling off enough badass stunts to earn yourselves a nice planet full of stars to fuck till you drop dead, you aren't going to find them here. I'm Senior Flight Mother Towering Cloth, and it's my job to make sure you little shits stay alive. Sitting in my back seat is Senwin. No family name. She is your senior instructor. You will call her ma'am or senior instructor, or she will drill your dainty little asses until they fall off. Understood? The crowd of quickly cowed cadets shouted back the traditional I of the Navy. Good. Pickup will be here in 20 minutes, so I've got time to give you the second rule. If you see a pilot or WSO wearing a scarf like this, we've made ace. That means we've thrown at least 5 living, breathing, thinking enemies into the vacuum of space. You don't get to wrap your scarf until you do that. If we catch you wearing one without spacing 5 poor bastards, we'll rip it off your neck and throw you out to the airlock. Now, on to the lessons. The instructor steps forward, clearing the body of the interceptor as the cockpit closes, and then the interceptor rises up. As you have joined patrol, these are one of the 2 ships you will be expected to become intimately familiar with. This is the VT-713 Standard Interceptor Pattern Interceptor All-Sky Superiority Craft. Yes, it's a stupidly long name. Call it the VT-713 if you're formal, or just the Patrol Interceptor if you're not. Now, this sleek piece of machinery is the striking force of patrol. She's clean, fast, can turn you faster than a night crew offered a bribe, and can, at max speed, hit a respectable fraction of C. Senior Flight Mother Cloth snapped her fingers, and the wings of the ship expanded from the aerodynamic, arrowhead-like shape to an angular T-shaped vehicle. Interceptors have 2 modes, combat and travel. Because of some fancy fuckery of grav drives you will have to memorize later on, combat mode is slower but more maneuverable, and travel mode is faster, but you turn like a stuck Turox. There was a low tingle, and everyone's hair stood up, as a large ship with 4 interceptor-sized hangar bays underneath it. And there's our backbone, the support ship. Well, right here. Everyone get to your designated shuttle, and then get your ass sat somewhere secure while we take a quick jaunt in system. Anyone who trips because of the pilot's flying gets thrown back into basic. Well, Milk thought, while rushing to her designated shuttle, this will be interesting. It took 3 weeks for Milk and Cookie to finally be qualified to sit in a simulator. The pod replicated the cockpit of an interceptor perfectly, and the use of GravTech and a 360-degree rotation made it feel like you were flying the craft. But before the pair could even touch the controls, they were introduced to their future interceptor wingmates. A habit that Milk and Cookie had to forcibly purge themselves of was naming conventions. Unlike in the USN, a wing in Shorvanti terms was 4 interceptors and their support vessel, whatever form their vessel came in. Orbital or ground stations might have 2 or 3 interceptor wings at any one point, but for the most part, these 4 interceptors were grouped around a single carrier ship that would act as their hangars, AWACs, and berthings. The standard support ship is the Hestron VT-156 Heavy Specialist Cargo Transport Frigate Model 16. Milk threw her textbook at the wall and groaned. Cookie, why is this so boring? You know, I almost forgot about this, Cookie replied. Trying to study for a test and hearing you bitch and moan because you can't sit still. Oh, fuck you, the Irish lady called back, before recovering her textbook. Not interested, the diplomat's kid replied, a spread of technical manuals sitting in front of him. A test on the capabilities and armaments of the interceptors were coming up, and he wanted to make sure he was prepped. Let's see. 1 ASM and 6 variable weapon racks. Gimbal-mounted nose weapon. The door slams open. What's up, sloths and stiff? Guess who just aced her fucking astronaut test? There was a thud as the startled Nagri fell from the ceiling. Her snake-like tail had uncoiled from the support beams of the large bunkroom out of shock by the final roommate's arrival. The one who just kicked the door down was tall, but not tall to the excessive heights that most Shulvanti ascribed to, and most of her off-orange flesh was replaced with sleek machines. She was a gear, the nickname given to a race whose proper name translates to about a paragraph of poetic music on the nature of machines, and she had just used the cybernetics that replaced her leg to break open the solid wood door. Again. Damn it, Forth! Commandant is going to lecture us again! The Nagri shouted out from her tangled heap on the floor. And I shall take those slings and javelins of well-deserved anger with the grace and dignity, as befitting of my race, or my name is not ventures confidently forth into great unknowns. The mechanically augmented woman said proudly before happily marching over to her desk and pulling out a toolkit. You know, if you keep kicking doors, then you'll keep having to fix your foot. The final roommate said, still in a tangled heap. The Nagri were also an interesting race. While most dominant species in the galaxy were two-legged and warm-blooded, the Nagri were quite literally snake people. The particular Nagri on the floor was named something quite unpronounceable for a race without a prehensile tongue, so she went by the very uncreative nickname of Slivers. After recovering from her fall, she gathered up her books and returns to where she was coiled around a low-heat liquid transfer pipe built into the ceiling. Her pale grey, mad scales blended in well with the cheap metal used to build the large bunkroom. I have a feeling fixing her foot is part of the enjoyment of kicking down doors, Cookie mused, looking over at her. Any advice for memorizing parts, Forth? I've got a test on the interceptor systems coming up, and I'm running into a war with my old mnemonics. The gear paused, thinking. Yes, give me a second. Weapons are an easy mnemonic. Gimbal gun, 6 strikers, frigate fucker, main laser, 6 racks, and your ASW. Cookie waved his hand. Yeah, I got that one down. More thinking the other parts, like any advice on the coffin and the buttons? The interceptor control scene and layout is just close enough to my old F-18s that it's thrown me off. F-18? I think you mentioned you flew before, but what was the ship you flew? Slivers asked, hanging loosely from the rafters as the group quickly forgot their texts as the 2 ex-USN aviators grinned. Oh, they were beautiful, Milk began. We called ours the Lash, and she could bank and dive like nothing else. You're taking a risk, Senwin said from Talvin's right. The slender shill had left her shirt back on the bed, as her wife was looking over cadet records. You know that Orlon has connections. Talvin sighed, scrolling down the list of bastards, beggars and bitches that she personally approved of. I know, but we've got to give them a chance. I know I've got to give them a chance. The bright red possible rebel sympathy mark on their file will be a death sentence for the human pair's admission into any Imperium civil service, but she let them through. Can't keep running from the thing in the cave. We've got to face it. You say that because it'll piss off Orlon, and you still feel guilty about shooting the Malchioness's WSO, Semwin replied dryly. The thought had crossed my mind, Talvin replied with a smile, before leaning back and giving her wife a kiss on the cheek. Now, are we going to keep talking business, or... Neither got much sleep that night.